Just when you thought the Epstein Files couldn't get any more disgusting, now a new revelation. I mean, this is gross, guys. I'm actually kind of reluctant to tell this story. But yeah, I gotta cover it, unfortunately. I mean, it's a big part of conspiracy theory culture right now. Just when you thought the Epstein Files couldn't get any more disturbing, comes an allegation so shocking and disgusting, it'll leave you dry heaving and wondering what type of monsters run this planet. And then we'll talk about another story. Honestly, I don't know if we'll get to it. I kind of want to. And then we'll take a look at the story of a bizarre paranormal event that shook an entire community. But it only affected half the people in town. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Hope you guys had an awesome weekend. We did the Dead Rabbit Radio movie night and movie morning over the weekend, and that was a lot of fun. We watched some really cool shorts. Honestly, the best, we had two standout ones. One of them was a short that was around 2 minutes long. That was it. And I think it was called Something in the Attic. I'll put the link in the show notes. When you can tell an effective horror story in 2 minutes, you're really onto something. That one was really good. The other one we watched, the official title of it was called The Hedgehog, but the full title of it is a short Sonic the Hedgehog film that explores loneliness, dread, and the horrors of youth. Then we watched a bunch of other shorts, and some were good. A few were terrible, but overall, we all had a great time. That's what I did over the weekend. Hope you guys had an awesome weekend yourself. Now, again, that's the whole intro, man. We got to jump into this Jeffrey Epstein stuff. In one way, it's super disgusting. This might be the grossest allegation I've ever come across, honestly, in or outside of the Jeffrey Epstein case. It's disgusting. But, who am I to break from tradition? We always like to have someone drive us around in these stories. They probably won't want their name associated with this episode, but let's go ahead. Walking into Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Everyone get on your feet and give it up for... Crossing your fingers is like, please don't be me, please don't be me. We're going to give a shout out to Mr. Slash for sass. Woohoo-wee! He's all getting pushed in. He's getting pushed in by the other show supporters. Mr. Slash for sass, he made a donation during our Thanksgiving live stream. So that's why you have the unlucky privilege of being part of this episode, Mr. Slash for sass. And I'm pretty sure he actually contacted me and said that's not how he pronounces his name, but I forgot to write it down. So I'm still going off of this. He made a donation during our Thanksgiving live stream. That is why he is going to be our captain or pilot this episode. If you guys can't support the show financially, totally fine, it really is. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow, but don't recommend this episode. Probably, hey boss, hey, I'm listening to this new podcast. You want to check it out? What do you think about the Epstein Files, sir? Mr. Slash for sass, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the... you know what? Let me think here for a second. Mr. Slash for sass, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the Dead Rabbit dirigible. Everyone climb on board this big, beautiful blimp as Mr. Slash for sass flies us out of Dead Rabbit Radio Command all the way out to Epstein's Island. Now look at, guys, I have a log here. I'm writing down everyone's name who's going to this island. Hey, what's your name back there? Mr. Slash for sass. Okay, put you down as the captain. We're flying all the way out to Epstein's Island. There was a very recent drop of Epstein file documents. All of these documents are coming out, and there's some really fascinating things going on about conspiracy theory culture. There's some really fascinating things going on about how things get included in these dumps. But then there's one thing that's just absolutely so disgusting. It makes me sick to even think about it. It really does. And I decided, I was like, should I keep covering the Jeffrey Epstein? Because, we know more files are going to come out. How much of it is just false accusations flying around? How much of it is political smoke screens, people targeting their enemies via these documents? How much of it is authentic? And how do we figure out the two? And then what do we do about it? Right? And what do we do about it? Because really, we can look at the past. The number one guy who's really been singled out by the early Epstein allegations was Prince Andrew. And there were photos of him with Virginia Giuffre when she was 16 years old. She herself said that she was having sex with Prince Andrew when she was 16 years old. That was really the best direct evidence, right? We had the victim who was speaking publicly, saying he was doing this. There's photos of the two together. And what has happened to him? He never went to jail. He did suffer some pretty serious consequences socially. Like, he is a member of the royal family, but they, kicked him out of his estate because they have control over all of that stuff. They basically disowned him. Now, he's most likely a multi-millionaire at the very least on his own. So it's not like now he's living in a cardboard box under Buckingham Bridge or whatever. But, he doesn't get to live in the royal house anymore. He probably had to get rid of a couple butlers. Probably had to downsize some stuff, but he's not going to go to jail. And so we look at all these files and we go, but what's going to happen? If these are actually true allegations, what's going to happen to these guys? Well, let me set it up a little bit like this. First off, anything, just to let you guys know, here's the thing. I'm not trying to provide excuses or smoke screens for people who are involved in these activities, right? I want to be very clear about that. But the way that any of these type of document dumps happen, because this is all coming from the feds, is anything about the subject that they have to disclose, in this case Epstein, anything the FBI has ever gathered on this guy is included in these dumps. So let's say this. Imagine I wrote an email saying that when I was 10, I was on a long-distance plane ride, and Tom Hanks was sitting next to me. And he kept putting his hand on my knee. And it made me feel very, very uncomfortable. And I kept saying, Mr. Hanks, please stop. And he wouldn't. He kept grabbing my knee and pulling me close to him. And I got really, this is Jason, this is kind of creepily vivid. Well, I could have made up a grosser story. I'm trying to keep it a little bit normal. And I keep trying to move my leg away, and he's like, no one gets away from the gump. That was an exact quote of his. And then eventually, the plane landed. And I got away from the gump. I put that all in a letter, and I sent it to the FBI. What the FBI does is they take a look at that, and they file it away in Tom Hanks's folder. A couple years later, someone files a Freedom of Information Act form saying, I want all the information you have on Tom Hanks. And the FBI will say, so I'm making it sound a lot easier than it is, but I don't know if you can just get you can get your own FBI file, you can ask for it at least. I don't know if you can get them on other people, but if there's not an ongoing investigation, something like that, or if they're ordered by Congress, they can release all the Tom Hanks files, everything they have on Tom Hanks. And what happens is, from an FBI computer server will be my letter I mailed them that they were never able to verify, but it's in his file. So then they end up releasing his file for one reason or another. And from the FBI, you see a letter from a 10-year-old boy saying, Tom Hanks kept his hand on my knee the entire time and told me no one gets rid of the gump, or whatever I said, no one escapes the gump, whatever it was. People then will see that and go, oh my God, the FBI is admitting that Tom Hanks is a child molester, or at the very least, a knee grabber of young boys. When they're not taking a side on either thing, that letter is simply in his file. Now, that used to confuse me a lot too. Before I started doing this show, I thought that if stuff came from the FBI, these are documents that for some reason they held onto because they were important. Turns out that the FBI will kind of hold on to everything, just in case. And we covered this story a long time ago. It was actually an episode that I got mad while I was recording it because it was just so ridiculous of a story, but it was the Soviet Union or the KGB fighting a UFO and getting turned into stone. And that was something that a guy wrote up and sent it to the FBI, or was in a magazine or something like that, because they're just gather anything they could. It had KGB or Soviet or anything. They take this story, which I don't think happened. They take the story, they put it in their UFO files regarding the Soviet Union. When it got released decades later, people go, oh my God, this is from the FBI, therefore it's legit. When it's not. It's just they clip articles out of magazines, they take any letters that come to them, and they put them in the file. So, that all being said, these allegations have come out over the weekend that are super gross. But did they happen? Even the FBI agents in the email exchange discussing this kind of have a flippant attitude like they don't even believe it's real at all. Because we get to see the full email. And so they're just cataloging it. They don't think it's real. But when it gets released in, there's 3 million Epstein documents altogether. When it gets released in this big batch, people go, oh my God, the FBI is admitting that this is happening. They just admit that they had a concern come from a citizen, and they are putting it in the file. Does that mean, I don't know if this is real, but I also don't assume that everything that comes from one of these FBI dumps is real or valid because it's coming from the FBI. Okay, so we got that set up there. Let's talk about the actual allegation. It's quite disgusting. What happened was a young man has come forward and he sent this information to the feds, and I think they might have even interviewed him, but they didn't act on any of this. They don't believe that it's real. This young man came forward and he goes, in the year 2000, when I was an underage boy, I was taken to Jeffrey Epstein's yacht. We're out in the middle, it's beautiful blue water everywhere, and I'm on this boat. And on this boat are also George Bush Sr., Jeffrey Epstein himself, Bill Clinton, and then Donald Trump and his wife Melania. They weren't married at the time, because in the year 2000 they weren't married, but they had met in 1998. Donald Trump and Melania were also on this yacht. And I'm assuming other people as well, but he knows these guys. George Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and his wife, Melania. And this young man said, when I was a boy, they took me to the yacht, and this is what I experienced there. I was raped by George Bush Sr. I mean, that's not the gross part. That's not that bad. Here's the thing. First off, no, I'm not making any jokes. That's not the worst part. I'm building to it. So you have time to shut it off and spare yourself this visual. He was raped by George Bush Sr. Then, which, listen, might have happened. I don't know. That's the craziest thing about these stories. I don't know. Do I think so? Now, let the CIA surveillance plane that started flying around right when I started recording. Let's let them go over the house as I drink a Diet Pepsi. You're going to hear me say this a lot this segment. I don't know. It's possible, though, right? It's possible. But I don't know if that is real. This is where this story gets super interesting, because even people who are totally invested in this Epstein story go, what? That doesn't make any sense. And what's funny is, myself as a paranormal guy go, what? I don't know. It could have happened. This could have happened too. And other people are like, what are you talking about? No, that's not even possible. This young man said when he was a boy on this yacht, someone pulled out a scimitar? You know, those big Arabian swords that are curved? Schmitter is how I used to pronounce it when I was a kid. I still don't know how to pronounce it. But anyways, he goes, they pulled out a Schmitter and they cut my foot. And I'm all, ah! But then there was no scar. It's this ritual they do. They have this Schmitter, and they come after you and they cut your feet, and you go, ah! And then you completely heal up. So people are like, wait, what? You know, you have the true crime crowd and the conspiracy crowd who are like, what? Jeffrey Epstein, oh, this is crazy. This guy got raped by George Bush's dad? George Bush Sr.? Like, that's crazy. And then they talk about this magical sword, and they're like, that's stupid. It's not even possible. Now, with me, I go, he might have gotten raped by this president, but he also might have also come in contact with a magical sword that doesn't make your feet scar up. I don't know. I mean, I believe in that stuff, too. Or they did some sort of ritual, and they instantly healed his feet, or whatever the matter. Or whatever happened. But I think that's possible. In a way, I think that might be more possible than being raped by George Bush. I guess I just don't... Here's the thing, right? You can call me a boomer, and I could totally be wrong on this, but George Bush doesn't really strike me as a man who wants to rape kids. If I gotta be honest, right? Jeffrey Epstein does come across as a creep. Is all the stuff that I've... And now, to be fair, I knew about that ahead of time, but, you know, I mean, George Bush has probably killed people. I assume that George Bush personally has taken human lives. He worked with the CIA for a long time. He's probably killed people up close and personal. Watched them in their eyes while they died. I don't know if he rapes kids. I could be wrong, though. And I'm not saying he didn't. I don't know. But if you told me which one's more plausible, this magical sword that can cut people but leave no scarring, or that George Bush raped a boy on a yacht, I'd go, I mean, the sword would... But, I mean, listen, not by a country mile. I know, here's the other thing, that rich and powerful people can become sickos. Sometimes a sicko aspires to be rich and powerful so they can abuse people. But other times, I think people become so powerful that everything in life is boring to them. So you start to do the things that you know you're not supposed to do. That's possible, right? I don't know if he raped this kid. But it's interesting because the true crime community is like, that's impossible. But they go, well, whatever, I'm going to forget about the sword because I want to believe everything else he's saying. So he says he got raped by George Bush, and then that his feet got cut with this sword, and it healed up. He never makes any allegations against Donald Trump, which is really interesting because that's the big push here. People are like, see, Donald Trump's a pedophile. Donald Trump's a pedophile. Is he? I don't know. I hope not. I hope George Bush doesn't rape kids. I hope, you know, Bill Clinton, I mean, if we know more about Bill Clinton's proclivities, and he's had multiple rape allegations about women over the years, but is he raping kids on a boat? I don't think so. He might. Because all of the other allegations, I hope not. Is Hillary Clinton wearing around the face of a slowly dying girl? Did Hillary Clinton skin a girl's face off and put it on her own and start dancing around? I hope not. That's the old frazzled drip. Frazzled drip or frazzled.rip. Those are those conspiracy theories have been around for probably about going on nearly 20 years at this point. We've talked about it a lot of times on the show. I hope not. Is it possible? Sure. Is it possible Donald Trump's a pedophile? Sure. Is it possible George Bush raped this guy? Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I hope not. But anyways, and also at the same time, I mean, I'm not like trying to be an apologist for any of this stuff. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, right? But this next part's absolutely disgusting. Did it happen? I don't know. Could it happen? Yes. Do I see people who are completely depraved doing this? Yeah. Do I think these guys did it? I don't know. But anyways, this boy on the boat said all that stuff happened, getting raped by George Bush, getting his feet cut. And then also, the attendees of the boat, Donald Trump, again, is not named to have been doing this. A lot of these Epstein documents are Donald Trump saying weird things, letters to Jeffrey Epstein. But a lot of times when the witnesses come out, they go, no, he was there, but he didn't do anything. I think there's one person who's really come hard against Donald Trump. It was a woman who was 13 at the time, and her allegations have been out there. I'll put the article in the show notes. That's a pretty widely known one. That one's been going around for a long time. Basically, though, that Donald Trump raped her and raped her multiple times when she was a young girl. But looking at this boat, Donald Trump is just kind of standing there. What an awkward place to be, by the way. But anyways, the boy goes, yeah, they cut me with the sword. But then they had this ritual or just something they wanted to do. Maybe there was no esoteric reason behind it. Maybe they're just a bunch of sick perverts. But he said, what I saw was on this boat, they brought out a bunch of babies. Take a long pause there. He goes, I watched these babies be brought out on this yacht, and the babies were then disemboweled, and their intestines were pulled out. Then the attendees of this party or this ritual took the intestines of these babies and ate the feces out of them. I don't know if like, oh my God, that's disgusting. I know. I imagine it. I'm not making a joke here. But do you remember Otter Pops? You'd buy those frozen things of like Kool-Aid, and it was a long straw, and you would eat it, and then sometimes it would be broken up, and there would be a lot at the bottom, and you'd have to squish the bottom to squirt it out of the top into your mouth. That's what I imagine that would be like. If you were trying to eat the feces out of some intestines, you would kind of probably have to do some handwork to move the feces through the intestines into your mouth. That's horrific. And that might be one of the grossest things. Maybe not the grossest thing, but it's up there. Did that happen? I don't know. Were the world's wealthy and powerful people sucking the feces out of a dead baby's intestines? I don't know. I hope not. What's interesting about that allegation is it is so far beyond the pale. It is so outrageously disgusting that you wonder who could make up something that sick. And then it makes you go, maybe it happened. Because I don't think I've ever come across anything like that before. If they were just disemboweling babies, that would have been gross enough. If they were eating the babies after disemboweling them, that would be gross enough. But sucking the feces out of their intestines is like... And they're babies, right? I'm not saying it would have been okay if they were like a boatload of 40-year-old men having their intestines cut out, and it would have been better. Right? Wouldn't that have been less gross, actually, if these were like construction workers? You're like, why is that gross? Why is that less gross? But it would be less gross, I think. Like if there's a bunch of elderly people, dibs on the colostomy bag, sucking it up. If there's a bunch of like old people who had lived their lives, or maybe all of these condemned convicts, they're like, you have killed many, many people in your life, so we're going to execute you. Not in an electric chair, not via firing squad. We got something special for you in mind. And the convict's like, do your worst, Judge. And the next thing he knows, his intestines are getting pulled out. He's like, ah! He's like, I never imagined this was your worst. Oh no, now you're eating my poop. Ah! But it would have been better if they were adults, is what I'm saying. Like, Jason, yes. It's still the world's elite preying on the population. Yes, that's true, but it would have not been as gross. So anyways, this is what this guy says happened on this boat. And this just, again, like they just do these document dumps in huge batches. And this, to me, was the standout one. Now, not a lot of people are talking about this one because it's super disgusting. You're not going to see this on Law and Crime Network on YouTube or anything like that. It's so gross. What's funny is, like, my instinct... here's the thing. I would not be shocked if people have actually done that in real life. Did it happen on the boat with all of these people? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. The FBI didn't seem to believe it because they really didn't investigate it much. And the When one FBI agent sent the allegations to another FBI agent, the response was, quote, "Thanks. I didn't realize Bush raped him too. Okay." Unquote. So meaning this guy had made a bunch of allegations and now he was like, oh yeah, and George Bush got me too. He's like adding to it. So the FBI agents seemed to not really take this seriously. But I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in recent human history there's been some sort of disgusting cult performing some sort of bizarre ritual, and part of it was eating the feces out of intestines or even baby intestines. That wouldn't shock me. It would shock me. It's disgusting, but you know what I mean? I'm sure someone has done it. I'm sure someone has performed some sort of ritual like this. Was it these guys on this yacht? I don't know. In an odd sitcom type of story, I go, this sounds like a subplot of a Wayans Brothers episode. Apparently, Bill Gates, which is funny because, see, Real Raw News, the big conspiracy website we always make fun of, they used to go after Bill Gates super hard, saying he had this sex compound underneath his ranch and he was kidnapping kids from across America. Bill Gates is raping all these kids all the time. They ended up getting a cease and desist order from Bill Gates. I don't think it was a cease and desist order. I think it was like, if you say his name one more time, we're going to sue you into oblivion order. Got a letter from his lawyer. So they stopped talking about Bill Gates, and now Bill Gates is getting tied to all of this stuff, and Real Raw News can't talk about it. They make up these outrageous stories, and now Bill Gates is constantly in these Epstein files. Apparently, what happened was, and I don't know if this is true, but it's pretty funny. It involves sex trafficking. Okay, well, not that kind of funny, but apparently Bill Gates hooked up with a Russian girl through, and I don't know how old she was. I don't even know what they're alleging. Some of these women are like 26, but again, at the end of the day, whether or not you're 26 or 12, if you're being sex trafficked, you're being sex trafficked. Apparently, Bill Gates caught an STD from this Russian girl that he hooked up with via Jeffrey Epstein. And then he needed to get antibiotics to take care of the STD. The bigger problem with him was he was married to his wife, Melinda, and he was afraid she also got the STD. So then he was trying to figure out a way to sneak antibiotics into her food or her drinks so she would be cured before she realized that he cheated on her. I mean, that's a great episode of a sitcom. I mean, take out the sex trafficking. Did that happen? I don't know. But it's, out of all the stories we've talked about so far, that would be like the funniest. Like, Jason, you don't rank these stories on how funny they are or what's worse. Here's an interesting thing too, and we'll wrap it up like this. I don't know, how long have I been talking about this for? Oh yeah, only 34 minutes. That's not too bad. The other big thing that came out of this, I'll talk about this super briefly, but it actually might be the most impactful. Apparently, in this new batch of emails, there is the allegation now that the 4chan board, Politically Incorrect, was created the day after Jeffrey Epstein met Christopher Poole, a.k.a. Moot, the guy who started 4chan. They met, and then the next day, Politically Incorrect board goes live. If that's true, I mean, that's super interesting because you have the conspiracy theory that Ghislaine Maxwell was one of the biggest contributors to Reddit. Her account, or we don't know if it's her account, but it hasn't posted since she went to prison. The account Maxwell Hill was the 8th highest in karma. So all the dumb upvotes that they got, constantly posting in Reddit. A power user is the term. That was Ghislaine Maxwell, and now for the first time we have an allegation that Jeffrey Epstein was behind 4chan's second most notorious board, and that would be, the first one would be the B board, Random, and now we have Politically Incorrect, which you'd have two completely opposite sides of the culture war. Reddit is extremely liberal, and Politically Incorrect is extremely conservative, extremely right-wing memes versus the echo chamber of Reddit, where it's just, if you don't have the perfect liberal opinions, then you get downvoted or straight up banned from subreddits. You'd have the idea of two people who were in close contact with each other. They worked together. They were friends, controlling or influencing two completely opposite sides of the internet, the biggest sides of the internet. So we know Jeffrey Epstein and these documents, he was on 4chan a lot. Like, he was sending people 4chan links. We see the emails that have a link to something. And you go, what? You know, old 4chan, especially the random board, was rife with child porn, child exploitation. Was he sending that stuff? I don't know. I'm not definitely not clicking the links, but we do know that he sent a screenshot and a link for a 4chan post about Five Nights at Freddy's porn. More specifically, Five Nights at Freddy's futa porn, which I think is like, I'm not entirely for sure what a futa is, but I believe it is a entity or a being that has big boobs and a large penis. But, I mean, you know, I don't know for sure. I think that's what it is. You're like, yeah, Jason, you took a wild guess and got it exactly right. And you do love those Five Nights at Freddy's movies, huh? I think that's what a futa is, but that was never my particular fetish. I was never into that. Definitely not into Five Nights at Freddy's banging an animatronic. That doesn't appeal to me at all. But anyway, so Jeffrey Epstein was sending people... sending it to George Bush Sr. I don't mean to make jokes. Listen, I wouldn't joke about that if I'll go back. I don't think that kid's story is real. I don't. I believe in magical swords. I believe in the sick. I believe in the rich and powerful. Some of them are sick people and they'll hurt other people and hurt children. I believe that there are gross, disgusting people out there who would dismember babies and eat the feces out of the intestines. I believe the different elements of the story. I don't know if that actually happened. I should have said this earlier. The boy said that the young man said he didn't remember any of that until he activated his repressed memories. So a lot of people go, oh, yeah, you probably should have mentioned that earlier, because they dismissed that kind of out of hand. How do I feel about repressed memories? I don't know. I think it's definitely possible to have memories that are lost, and I think it's also very possible to have memories that are misremembered, especially if you weren't constantly dwelling on them. I think I would take it case by case as to a repressed memory story, but also I would take it case by case if anyone said, hey, no, this happened a week ago, this is what happened to me, and it was the story I just told you. I wouldn't necessarily believe them off the bat, but I wouldn't necessarily not believe them. I'd really kind of have to look into it for myself. But yeah, so it's interesting because we have all these different layers, right? We have kind of the funny stuff with Bill Gates trying to slip his wife antibiotics. Then we have the horrifying story of this young boy on a boat. And then we have something that's tangible and affects us today. And that's this culture war that two people who are close friends, business associates, were manipulating two powerful sides of the internet and created this left versus right dichotomy that has become so insanely violent in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime. I mean, you'd have to probably go back to the 60s and the days of the, Weather Underground and these political assassinations with Martin Luther King and John F. Kennedy and all this stuff, and society just seemed like it was going to fall apart. That seems like it was worse than what we're going through now. But, it's getting bad. It's really bad already, and I think it's going to get worse. Now imagine if that was really fueled by two people. They're both telling all the people on their website, that other guy, he's out to destroy you, and he wants to destroy you, and he has these plans to wipe you off the face of the earth. And really, they're funding this, and they're promoting this, and they're building this culture war, and then they go home and laugh about it. Because they don't care. Their whole point is to divide people. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, they don't even have a point of dividing people. They just think it's funny. So we don't know if he actually, the idea that he talked to Moot, there are emails saying, hey, he's a really cool guy. Jeffrey Epstein really liked Christopher Poole. We don't know if he actually gave him the idea to start politically incorrect and, hey, you need to create a board that people are allowed to say whatever they want. As opposed to Reddit, which was highly controlled. And of course, you're going to have two different type of ecosystems in two websites that are so... it's radically different. It's opposite sides of the coin, how they're run. They're both honeypots, right? Anything you post on either of these sites is going straight to some sort of federal warehouse. But we don't know if Jeffrey Epstein actually founded the Politically Incorrect Board or encouraged Christopher Poole to do it or paid him off to do it or whatever. We also don't know if Ghislaine Maxwell was actually Maxwell Hill. We just know the account posted constantly. It was a power user, and then after she got arrested, it's never been logged onto since to this day. But that's the latest drop on the Epstein Files. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know how much more I'm going to cover about it. I mean, to me, we've done a lot of Jeffrey Epstein stuff on this show, but we've always kind of featured the weirdest stories, like did he escape into cyberspace, or like that one time I found his personal blog. We talked about that. I'll put all those episodes in the show notes. I don't think that this show is set up to do a constant data dump from his files get released. We didn't talk about him the first time, I don't think. This is the second or third batch. This is the first time we've really gone into deep dive into the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's not that I don't find it interesting, and I'll tell you this, it's not that I don't find it important either. I do think both of those things are true. I just don't know if I want this podcast to be the constant. I actually have toyed with the idea of starting a second podcast that was every 2 weeks or monthly that was just about the Epstein files. But I don't know. That might happen, it might not. I just don't want to keep talking about it on this podcast. Now, it doesn't mean that I won't if something absolutely bizarre comes up, but just naming names and saying, oh, we got this file, that's not necessarily, I think, what this podcast. But see, this is for the show, right? Because we're hitting the conspiracy angle. If he controlled 4chan and she controlled Reddit, that's a big deal. That's a huge problem. The idea of the babies getting their guts ripped out and the people eating the poop and the magical sword and all of that stuff, that is Dead Rabbit Radio. We have this mystical ritual ceremony. Did it happen? I don't know, but it was definitely, I feel, worth talking about. And then the Bill Gates thing is just kind of funny because Bill Gates, I've had one episode of this podcast removed. If you listen to the show on Spotify, there is one episode missing. Spotify took it down. It was called Is Bill Gates the Antichrist? And it was a joke. It was a joke. I was talking about his ranch and going, isn't this dumb? Again, nowadays hearing the allegations about Bill Gates, I go, oh, well, maybe Real Raw News was onto something. But I was talking about Real Raw News and what a stupid article that was and going on and on. And they removed it. Spotify removed that episode. Out of 1,500, almost 1,600 episodes at this point, that's the only episode that's ever been removed. So Bill Gates does seem to be a little not liking this attention, and at this point, it's just coming out. His name's constantly linked to this guy. So we'll probably keep up on that. But until I get the lawyer letter, and then, of course, I'll read the letter on air and probably stop talking about him. But yeah, it's interesting. I just don't know if I'm going to keep doing it. The Epstein stuff. This episode, I think, kind of summed it all up. And basically, yeah, I mean, my view is I don't know how much of this stuff is real. I hope none of it. But some of it, unfortunately, we do know is real. And I think more and more information will come out. Or maybe not. Maybe the rest of it will be things like this. Who knows? But I would like to know more about some of these rituals, if that part of the story is true, that were being performed. And more of these emails that show that it's possible Jeffrey Epstein he wasn't just a creep. He wasn't just a child trafficker or a sex trafficker. He also had his hands in other things that you never would have thought of. You never would have really thought he was into Five Nights at Freddy's futa porn. And I definitely never would have thought he was the one who was behind the Politically Incorrect Board. But, I mean, those are really, really... The futa thing is just kind of gross. The futa thing is just kind of weird. But the idea that he promoted and possibly funded Politically Incorrect, which is the complete opposite of Reddit. It's about as opposite as you can get. It really, makes you go, what else is not organic stuff coming out of the Politically Incorrect Board? A lot of it sounded manufactured shock, outrage material to kind of rile you up. But maybe all of it was manufactured, and some of it was just better put together than other parts, and, I couldn't tell. It's not like I spent a lot of time on that board, but you come across it from time to time in the conspiracy theory world. Interesting stuff. We'll see if we cover more. It'll probably be a long time before we do, unless some crazy documents get dumped. I think, though, we're going to make the ending. I'll cover that story tomorrow about the neighborhood. This is the second day I've put it off, and not because it's not a good story. It's an awesome story, but we just keep running out of time. So this will be the end of this one. I don't want to rush anything. We'll get back into the spookiness tomorrow. This is spooky to me as well, honestly. Like, if those what if those allegations are true? See, it's funny because on my YouTube to watch list, my watch later list, the first video, and I have to see it every single time I open my watch later list, the very first video I ever added to my watch later list, and it's this guy who claims he was raped by former Vice President Mike Pence. I see that every single day. I go to find like a Minecraft video to watch while I'm eating lunch. I go to watch later and it's a photo of a guy and a video called I Was Raped by Mike Pence. So here's the thing, like I see that every single day. And there are a ton of people who post these stories, and I don't think he really got raped by Mike Pence. To be fair, I haven't watched the video. I haven't watched the video. My YouTube account was set up ages ago. And I go, I should watch this later, and I clicked on it and have never watched it, because I'm never in the mood to watch it. But I know that people make these allegations all the time, so when he's saying he was raped by George Bush Sr., I go, it's possible, but I hope not. Right? And, but if those allegations are true, it's horrifying. Horrifying stuff. Right? But we also know that the rich and powerful can be horrifying people. It's all a terrible situation all around, but it is from time to time important for us to kind of analyze and to look at the impact it's having on the culture as a whole and the impact it had on these individuals, these victims. We can't forget that either. I know that I don't know if they did this, I don't know if they did that. Obviously, people were sex trafficked, people were sexually assaulted, and that's awful. I don't know if all of these names, I don't know if Chris Rock did it. He's on the Epstein list. I hope not. But I mean, I guess we'll never know unless we get some evidence, and I don't really hope not. But I wish that no one was sexually assaulted in the first. It's not like I would be like, well, at least Chris Rock didn't do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I wish it didn't happen at all. There's no way to finish that sentence, but I'm basically saying I wish it didn't happen at all, obviously. I don't think I should have to say that. But when I think of Chris Rock doing it, I go, I mean, it's worse. You're like, Jason, quit saying things are worse. It's all bad. It is all bad. I'm not saying that that's okay that happened to you, because it could have been worse. Chris Rock could have done that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I hope nobody did it. You're like, just end the episode. Just end the episode. It just sounds awful. It sounds worse. It's all bad. It's all bad. But it sounds worse. I just wish that it was never happened to anybody, type of thing. But anyways, we will have another episode tomorrow. You're like, Jason, listen, man, can you please do an episode? Can you please just have 1 week where you don't talk about feces? Hey, man, I did not want to do this segment. This was coming out all weekend long, and when I saw it pop out, I think it came out on Friday, I go, oh. And I go, we're not going to talk about that. And then Saturday, more people in the conspiracy theory world were talking about these. And by Sunday, I go, I got to talk about this. If I don't talk about this, then people are going to think I'm burying real conspiracy news. I got to talk about this. I had a segment to go about a cursed film. It's dope. It's dope. We'll do that. I don't know if we're going to do that one tomorrow, but I wanted to do like that one, the cursed film. That you watch it, it summons a djinn into your life. That's what I wanted to do. But I felt that I had to do this one. And it's not like I have a gun in my head or anything. But it just wasn't like a pleasant thing to talk about. But anyways, let's go ahead. I know I just kind of keep meandering here. Let's go ahead and end this episode. You're like, thank you, Jason. Thank you. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is your daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm so glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.